So if you don't know me already, my name is Shirley. I'm a life and success coach, and I've been a certified life coach for about 4 years now. And what I love is I love to help entrepreneurs, creators, artists, um, Asian women, people of color to really help them kind of like break through their own personal limits to really go to that next level in their life, in their business, in their career, wherever that looks like. And I have the honor of connecting with Cindy over Instagram, which is amazing. And Cindy, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Hi everyone. My name is Cindy. I'm a certified life coach and change worker. I specialize in empowering women to identify their authentic desire and need, to overcome barriers and help them to create sustainable well-being habits.
I love that. Yeah, this is really good. And I guess kind of like how we came to this idea of doing this live is we were just kind of doing catching up sessions, just kind of like catching up with each other, talking about our work, how we've been doing in our personal life as well. And just this topic, it just keeps on coming up again and again and again.
Yeah.
About like, yeah, about like Asian women and a lot of the struggles that we face. And then I'm just like, oh, it's not just me. You also experience the same things too.
Yeah, I believe like we are not the only ones. I believe a lot of people actually struggle on, these areas. So which is why I'm so glad that, you decided to do this together and to navigate these topics because I think they are so essential. And it's only through creating awareness, like talking about it, that we can choose something different. We can choose to do something about it. So yeah, very happy to be here today.
Yes, yeah, and I guess we can simply make it feel like our usual conversations where we're just kind of like really talking about our thoughts on this topic. Um, because it's very interesting that we don't talk about this enough, and sometimes we feel like, oh, it's on us. Because I feel like, for example, as Asian women, we tend to put a lot of things in our kind of like we think it's our own fault.
Oh,
That's why
yeah.
all of these things is happening to us. Like, oh, it's because of, my own failure or my own mistakes. It's because I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough in these areas. That's why I can't really show up online. That's why I can't really speak up in a meeting. It's because I'm too shy or too timid or too afraid. And I guess, yeah, since we're on this topic, do you have anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, so I think like first of all we need to like realize that all these years like we grow up, so there's a lot of shaping influences in our life. So the stories that we tell ourselves is not just coming from ourselves, right? So I'll start from I'll say it's childhood. So like when we're young, just feel like my hair, sorry. Like when we're young, so a lot of the big influences in our life is actually our parents or our caregiver. So we actually learn a lot of how we see the world through their lens, and we pick them up like sponge. That's how I like to imagine that. And then as we grow up, then we go to school, there's also peers. So basically the environment that we are in, the people around us actually play a major influences. And not only that, also media, like what we watch on television, the mainstream media, and even social media nowadays, right? So like who you follow and all these are all input to basically form how we see the world. Yeah. So I would say that it's important for us to be aware of the shaping influences. Then we can examine them and we can challenge them to see whether they are helpful to help us to kind of move forward.
Yes, I would definitely say a lot of my own personal kind of like experiences and what shaped who I am right now. A lot of them, they really did come from my parents and I guess just the culture and the environment that we grew up in. And then for so long, I haven't really looked at those upbringings and kind of how they shaped who I am until just in the last 5 or 6 years where I'm like, oh wow, a lot of these things is so ingrained in me that I just see it as such a normal thing. But when I look at maybe like people who have different experiences as me or who look a little bit different than me, they don't think like that at all. Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, so there's actually a lot of differences here. And so I guess we can start talking, really talking about this idea of, you know, how a lot of our parents, they want us to follow a specific traditional, safe
Yeah.
path for our career,
Mm.
which is like, you know, the typical stereotypical path of a lawyer, doctor, engineer.
Yeah.
It's like it's either
The
one of
money
these.
making one. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can't do these three, maybe you can settle for an accountant.
Oh, yes.
Like those,
Yes. Mm.
yeah, like those are the super, super safe routes, and they are the very traditional paths. And so, what would you say to anyone who feels like, okay, I see those are the paths for me, but I really want to do something else, and it feels scary because it's unconventional?
Mm. Yeah. So like I myself actually encountered something similar as well. And actually a lot of my clients, like especially those from Asian culture, they seem to share the same, sentiment. It's always like they wanted to pursue something like uni, and then there will be this comment that, oh, it's probably not so practical to pursue something other than, what you mentioned just now, those three or four, they consider it like the prestigious kind of career. So I would say that it's okay, when we're in uni that time. So like we pursue what we think is best. Our parents think that is best for us. But once you step into it, a lot of us actually have the opportunity to work in those fields. So you basically work in areas like what you study in uni, and then you start to feel unfulfilled, right? So there's the unfulfillment coming up. Then I think it's important to be curious, like, oh, like there's something missing here. Like in my daily job, I actually wanted to try something. So I would say like first to kind of pursue it as a hobby, like passion. Yeah, because I know a lot of people they actually prefer art as compared to science. Not saying that which one is better here, but it's just like follow your interests, right? Yeah. So you don't have to feel like you need to turn your interest into a business or a career itself, but you can just follow the breadcrumb. Like for example, if you like drawing, go sign up for art class, right? Like yeah, it's like I think baby step is the way to go, and then to kind of see how you feel about it, and then slowly. And another thing, how I would suggest is like perhaps side hustle,
Mm,
create something on the side. Yeah, yeah. What about you? Do
hmm
you have any tips or advice for people who have like something different interests?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say that I love the idea of side hustles because it gives you kind of like a an avenue to start trying different things in your life. Just try it.
Mhm.
You know, it doesn't hurt to
Yes.
try those things
Mm.
and try a couple different things and see what sticks. I think sometimes we are also afraid of like, oh, I try it and what if it doesn't work? Then try something else. You know, like,
Exactly.
yeah, don't be afraid to quit. It's actually very, very important for you to quit fast, the things that you don't want. Like, it's almost like you want to just, you know, that idea of like throwing lots of spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like, the things that stick is going to be the thing that feels like you feel like there's so much more there than just trying it out, right? There's probably a connection there somewhere, or something about it really, really draws you towards it. Like there's something about it, about the art, about the side hustle, about, you know, selling things on Amazon, or something
Yeah.
about it
Mm.
that makes you feel pulled towards it. And I would say that's a very good place to start, to just trying it and seeing what sticks. And don't be afraid to quit. Like quit as fast as possible. Run away from the things that you don't want. The moment that you just know, the moment that you know that it's not what you want. The other thing that I think is also very important to keep in mind is that we often hear from our parents telling us that this is a safe path, like do what, you know, like either choose those specific careers because those things are safe. And I want to offer that there's a big difference between safe, um, safe in a way because it is just familiar. That's why it feels safe. It is familiar to them. It is familiar to their parents. It is also familiar to you because you probably went to a traditional, through a traditional education system, and those are the jobs that you see around you. Those are the jobs that's being offered for you. So it feels familiar and therefore it's safe. And even when you look at today's economy, you can lose your jobs just as easy and get laid off just as easy when you are an engineer or you are in tech or you are in, all these corporate jobs. It's just as easy, right? So it is safe. A lot of the times it's because it feels familiar to you, and so that's safe. And the reason why our parents want us to choose a familiar path and why we choose what's more familiar, it is because in the past, if you think about how your parents grew up, that maybe they were immigrants or maybe they came from a culture that's like really, the economy wasn't that well, right? So they really require and really, really cling to this idea of needing to survive. So that in order for people in their generation to survive, they have to choose what is familiar because it brings certainty. And so therefore, that is the safe thing to do. But then if you really look at it, it is safe because it's familiar. And is this really true safety? Right? It's safe because it's familiar, but that doesn't mean it's actually true safety. I would even argue that if you feel like you haven't been really leaning into that calling or leaning into that nudge, what you're doing right now, and I'm just being very, very honest, a lot of the times this is very unsafe for your soul. Like when you don't truly pursue the things that you want to do, what's really happening is that thing that's in you that you continue to push it down, it's like literally eating you alive from the inside out. And I'm saying this like this because I've been through that process of not really following my dreams and then feeling scared, but then not doing anything about it. Like that is so unsafe for your soul. That is so unsafe for your nervous system. Like it is what leads to depression. It is what leads to anxiety. It is what it leads to a lot of like the lack of aliveness in your life when you don't truly pursue it and really go after it.
Yeah,
So
that's so
those are
true.
my thoughts.
Yeah. Those are so true. I can feel it. I think, yeah, I share something similar as well. I think there's always this desire, like you know it, right? There's this voice that it's like it's really soft. It's whispering to you, hey, like you want to try something different, and then it's always like the logical mind comes in and say, no, like, yeah, it's scary. I don't know what to do. A lot of us fall into the trap, like, I don't know what to do. I don't even know, like, for example, if you want to pursue something, you want to start a business, you want to go down the route of entrepreneurship. And a lot of times in school, we actually didn't learn how to do it. So your brain would try to come up with like look for reference point, because how our brain works is trying to look for past experience, right? And you realize that when you want to try something different, like what Shirley said just now, it's actually outside of your comfort zone. So you don't have any references. So your brain, it's very easy to go into like, I don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't know what other people would think of me. So it's just forget about it, right? So we push it down, but then it creates resistance actually in our life. You realize that, oh, you might have what you want, but deeply you don't feel fulfilled. Yeah. So I think it's really, really important to listen and lean in and do something about it, right? You don't have to like quit your job straight and just dive into it, but you can be, yeah, curious. And one thing is also like, I think having the people, the tribe, the community is really important. So if you want to try something, dip your toes into the water, try to hang out with people from who have done it before. Surround yourself with those people, talk to them, learn from them, their experience. I think it really helped to give you that possibility. Sometimes a lot of what we need is actually the possibility to kind of open our mind, our eyes to like, oh, wow, this is possible. Let us be inspired to kind of move towards it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. The other thing I also wanted to offer was that, like, maybe in your parents' generation, they had to do those things in order to survive, right? And now I think we are at an age where, for a lot of us, and probably if you're watching this live, that means you have access to internet, that means you have access to Instagram, and that's amazing. And so that's an amazing privilege that we have. And so in our days, perhaps what really lights us up is not focusing on survival anymore, because when we only focus on to survive, we're like still going about with our day-to-day motions, but then inside we're dying, right? Inside we're not really living. And that is kind of the differences that you really want to really take an honest view of your life and really see that, okay, I know that there is that safe and familiar path that I know I can go on and I can live like that for the rest of my life. And I also know there's this other path that is uncertain because it's not what's familiar in my DNA, right? It's uncertain. And I know that by choosing that path, I'm going to feel more alive. And I'm going to feel that zest for life. I'm going to want to wake up every day to get to work, right? I think that's a very amazing feeling. Knowing that, choosing that, yes, there will be new things you have to learn. There will be new fears, doubts that come up. And it's kind of like it's very wobbly, it's not as familiar yet. And then what I want to offer is that that's always how it feels in the beginning. And as you slowly move towards it, like one step at a time, you can also look back and look at your progress. And your progress will help to build confidence in you, right? The progress helps to build habits, confidence, and like this more familiar feeling in you because you've been doing it for like a month or you've been doing it consistently for 6 months. So that now you feel less unsafe in it, right? And that's why we want to really rewire our brain to start thinking differently when we are pursuing a path that's like untraditional and unconventional to what we knew, to what we've known.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I also want to, like add on to basically for those people who are actually brave enough, like to take the first step, right? Maybe that it's like starting a side hustle, like you still have your job, but then you have a side hustle. I think one of the trap that I've always seen is the tendency to compare the side hustle with the job, the stable job, okay? So I just want to mention that it's not fair to compare, right? Even though I know the tendency is, well, I'm starting this thing, I haven't seen enough money yet. Yeah, why am I? Yeah, but then it creates a lot of inner conflict within you. So one mindset shift that I can offer is like, think of it like if you have a side hustle, it's like two hands that you have, right? So you have one dominant hand, which is like your career, the one that you've been in for many years, and then you have another one, the non-dominant one. For me, it's my left hand. So that is your side hustle. So you need to kind of be patient, like give yourself that space and grace, like to explore, and just like what Shirley said just now, to build the capacity because you're going down an unfamiliar route. So it's really important for you to take one step at a time. So rather than, like expecting yourself to write using a non-dominant hand, and we all know how the handwriting will end up, right? So it's really giving yourself that patience and time. Yeah, and trust that you are also building the skills at the same time. You're building the skills that you need to make it work. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's really amazing. The other thing that also comes up, I also have noted here is that you want to be careful when you resist the things that you really want to do for so long, because what happens is over time it can lead to resentment, right? It's like, when you don't pursue and actually try the things that you want to try in your life, what ends up happening is that those emotions lead to resentment, and we start unintentionally blaming our parents for the reason why we're not pursuing our dreams. Or we start getting bitter about other people who are being successful in their life simply because we haven't done it
Yeah.
ourselves, because there is that longing within us that we want to do. Right. So that over time, like those feelings, they can manifest into other ways where we take it out on other people. But at the same time, what we're really frustrated about is ourselves because we don't actually try it and we don't actually pursue it. And so that's just something to like also keep in mind as well. Yes, notice, look at how unsafe and unhealthy it is.
Yeah, it is. So definitely take that first step, like give it a try. And really like we are really privileged. I feel like our generation, we live in a generation with there's like really abundance, a lot of opportunity and technology advancement and all. Like literally, the thing that you do, you can do it online as well, where you can actually reach global audience. It's not just limited locally. And yeah, I feel like we are in this era where there's a lot of possibility. It's for us to kind of lean in and yeah, embrace it, yeah, as we go, but at the same time also allow yourself to change your mind. It's this paradox, right? Both are equally true. So listen
Yes.
listen to your heart, give it a fair chance to give it a try, get the support that you need, and then I think, yeah, that's really the way to go, in my opinion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this, I guess this kind of connects to like the second point that we can talk about, where I think sometimes Asian women feel like they feel guilty for actually pursuing the things that they want to do, putting their dreams first, putting their needs first. And they feel like, no, I have all these other people's expectations that I want to meet. And what if something bad happens? Then I want to be able to support my family. If I don't make any money, then I'm not really supporting my family. I'm not, like my parents, they work so hard. This is the most common thing that I hear for immigrant children is
Mhm.
that my parents work so hard for me to get to have the life that I have right now. And then it's almost like I'm throwing them all away to pursue my dreams. And there's so
Mm.
much guilt to that. And it's so heavy. And I totally understand it because I feel it and I've been in that shoes as well. Do you have anything that you want to say around this?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, this is a hard part to navigate. Basically, I feel like because there's so much of like we are all carrying the weight of the expectation from our parents and all, like we don't want to disappoint them at the end of the day, right? We want to make our parents proud. And yeah, but at the same time, sometimes it's like I think I'll refer back to what Shirley said earlier about like when you have this dream inside you, this whisper, and you ignore it, it's like you disappoint yourself. Yeah. When you don't follow your dreams, as in like you don't give it a try. Yeah. Again, like what we say, like following your dreams doesn't mean you just jump off the cliff without any some sort of like safety net or try to plan for it. But I think it's really important to just take that first step. Yeah. And to and try and see what is possible. Yeah. At the same time, I think where our parents come from is usually they, their intentions are good. They want to keep us safe. They want us to have a stable income because they want us to have a good life, right? I think all of us want to have a good life. It's just the way of how we do it. So one thing that I feel is helpful is also that communication, to let the parents know or whoever family members know that, hey, this is your plan. Yeah, to inform them that, hey, this is what I have in mind. Yeah, if I'm going to pursue something, yeah, this is, for example, like I have this saving, this amount of savings, this is what I'm going to do. Sometimes it's also to let them know that how are you going to support yourself in terms of like that safety. Like I think that assurance, yeah, assuring them that, hey, I actually have it all planned out, right? I'm not just following this blindly. And then, yeah, and I ask for your support or your acceptance to kind of like, yeah, just support me for during this period. And I'm going to do my best and things like that. Yeah. How about you, Shirley? Do you have like anything to offer?
I always love to tell people to know that, like, whenever you prioritize yourself, you are also directly and indirectly benefiting the people around you. Like, the moment when you choose yourself, choose your needs, choose to prioritize yourself and what you want over people's expectations of you, you will also and benefit directly and indirectly all of your loved ones and all of your
Mm,
community around you. Like, that's the mantra that I always want to drill into
so
people,
good.
to really let them to start thinking of whenever you choose yourself, right? Because sometimes I think for a lot of us we think it's a very selfish thing to do. So selfish. You're
Mm,
not thinking about other people. And it's like, actually, every time when you choose yourself over other things, they might not know it in that moment. They might not be able
mm,
to see it in the moment, but it always come back to them. Whenever you choose yourself, it always benefit everyone around you. How is that true? Right? You really want to start looking around for evidence of how that is true for you. Like, how is that true? How is it that when you choose to try out this side hustle and if it starts making money, how might that benefit people around you? How is it true that when you go deeper into your personal development journey and maybe you set boundaries with your mom and she might not see it, right?
mm,
But how might that also benefit her? How might that benefit your family dynamic and your relationship as a result?
mm,
Like, it's a very different perspective of seeing that actually every time when you choose yourself, you're also helping everyone around you, and everyone rises up in your life as a result of you choosing yourself. Um, yeah, and it's going to look and feel hard at times because your loved ones, they might not get you in that moment. They
mm.
might see it as you being selfish. They might see it as you being difficult. They might think you're overreacting or you're being dramatic. And in that moment, when you choose yourself in that moment, it benefits them whether they see it in that moment or not. Or they might never be able to see it, right? But it's just that you know that's the truth for you. And then that's the reality you create when you know that this is going to help them.
Mm, mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think because at the end of the day, it's really who we become, right? It's the whole process of who we become. And I think there's something really magnetic when you live life on your own terms. When you pursue, you go after something, right? The courage, the resilience, it's very magnetic. And yeah, in the long run, they will be able to see, wow, like you are actually leading by example. Yeah, that's how I see it. You're showing them. Remember, we talked about the path, like because everyone wants a safe path because it feels certain, it feels comfortable. But when you try to create something new, you are creating new possibilities, like showing them what is possible. And I think you rewrite the whole family story. You break the old cycles, and then from there it's like the tree, and then there's this branch that come out, a new branch, a path, and you show what is possible for the generation to come. Yeah. That's how
Mm,
I see it. Mm,
no, that's really great. Yeah, it's kind of like really starting to change the family dynamic and changing the family
mm,
cycle, and don't let
mm,
it continue to repeat itself, right, onto the next generation.
mm,
And I think there's also something to really know here, especially for kind of like people from Asian background, is that we tend to, um, like, unlike the Western society, we tend to view ourselves as part of a collective, as part of a community, and we choose family first over the individual, right? Whereas from Western context, the viewpoint a lot is like
mm,
individuality, and then we emphasize on that. And so this is why it makes so much sense where when we want to choose our own path, sometimes it's very hard because we're like, no, we value the family so much, we value the community so much, and I think that's an amazing thing. And so if just choosing yourself and like going after your your own path, if that feels so selfish for you, if that feels so wrong to you, that's okay. We just want to kind of shift our ways of thinking, start thinking differently about it. Like, okay, what if it's actually when I choose myself, when I do what I want, it benefits all the people around me. Like our whole collective, our whole community changes and everyone gets inspired and everyone inspires everyone else and we all lift up together as a group. And I think that's an amazing thing to do. Like when you start first, right? You start uh, as an example, like you feel so in integrity because you're also doing the work, right? You do that first, and then the community around you, the people around you will start changing, will start thinking differently. Like, hey, there's an idea planted in their head that, hey, look at so and so, like look at Brittany, like she's doing it. I can probably, there's a chance I
Mm.
can probably try it out for myself too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, your mom might think at first like, oh my gosh, like she's being such a bad daughter for deciding to set this boundary with me, for telling me that I can't, I don't know, come over to her place all the time, not like being this in control of her life, right? But then over time, they'll be like, okay, actually, oh wow, like she's doing this, huh? In the past, I realized that my maybe like my mother-in-law haven't done this for me, or my mother-in-law was also trespassing my life a lot as well, right? So they start to think differently. It creates a
Mm.
different idea, different way of thinking for them as well. But then in the beginning, anything that's different, it's going to just cause some conflict first. It's going to create some disruption before it settles down into a new normal. And I think that's it's supposed to be like that. There's supposed to be conflict first and
Mm.
destruction and all hell goes loose.
Yes.
Yes. And then you slowly start to settle down to a new normal, a new
Mm.
way of relating with each other, especially
Mm.
in your family.
Yeah, yeah, I think that is so true. Like, like people say like healing crisis, right? For healing to happen, sometimes it actually become worse first before the healing happens. But once you take that first step, you really change the whole dynamic. Yeah. And I like what you say, like how you inspire the people around you. When you do it, you lead by example. You actually give other people the permission to do the same. And and sometimes it's really your parents, right? For example, the mother, like she had never had the chance to kind of, it's always family first. So a lot of times I feel like as women, like especially those married and have kids, it's always like prioritizing, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Prioritizing your family. But sometimes like we forget that the different roles that we play, there's also us in it, that person, individual, your passion, your hobby, your interests, they matter too, right? But then sometimes we just bury them because, oh, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, like, yeah, I have this career, like everything. And then we kind of forget about that part of us that actually wants to live life and to enjoy and do things, some of the things that bring us joy. Yeah. So I think it's really
Mhm.
important to remember that. Mm.
Yeah, always start thinking like, what will my husband think? What will my partner think? They go first, and then I'll go
Mm.
last. I can't choose to have what I want unless it meets the needs of the whole family,
Mm.
unless
Mm.
we both agree. I think that is like that really is something to navigate around, and I think it's like especially hard for for Asian women to
Yeah,
really go through those
it
because
it
we
is
often put
difficult.
so many things in
Mm.
front of us. We think
Mm.
it is like the woman's duty
Yeah,
to
so
take care of the
true. Mm.
family.
Yeah, and here I just want to offer like a mindset shift. So a lot of times like we think that it's selfish to kind of pursue what we want, like self-care, but it's this paradigm, right? It's like my needs versus their needs. So it's almost like if I choose my need, I will sacrifice their need. So the mindset shift that works really well for me is like, instead of my needs versus their needs, let's talk about everyone's needs. So imagine if there's a circle of like the people that you take care of, like could be family members, like people in your community. What you want to do is kind of include yourself in the circle too. So it's not like you versus them, it's like everyone. Because like we all know that saying, right? Like fill your own cup first, because you want to fill it enough so that it overflow and then it create that ripples for other people. So in the long run, it's actually beneficial to everyone if you include yourself in the circle of care as well. Yeah. So that really, like when I actually learned about that concept, it really changed a lot. So it's not just about you versus them anymore. It's like everyone. And it's also very important for us to practice, since we talk about like Asian culture, to practice asking and receiving. Because a lot of times, like I myself, I know that like the old me feels that asking is like too burdensome, like troubling others. So then sometimes I don't even ask. Sometimes I don't even express my needs. But if you don't ask, you just assume it, then you're not gonna get what you want, right? They say ask and you shall receive. So I think there's a kind of skill to develop, asking. Yeah, and asking can be quite uncomfortable for those of us that it doesn't come naturally to us. So see as a skill that you can practice and slowly develop that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Like often right before we see that there's something that we want or we want to make that ask, I think what comes out for a lot of women is that, oh, I'm being too much of a burden. Like I don't want to be a burden to them. So no, I don't want to be that trouble, the person that causes trouble. Let me just like not ask for it. I can take care of it myself.
Mm.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that? How to work through that?
I, I think this is like a really common kind of mindset. Like we have been taught not to like rock the boat, just stay where
Yeah.
you are, right? Be good, be nice to everyone. But it's really important
Mm-hmm.
for us to be nice to ourselves too. And there's also fear of rejection, right? Because what if I ask and they say no? So we kind of jump before us even taking action. We kind of just assume like, nah, let's not ask. Yeah, let's handle this by ourselves. So like what I want to offer is sometimes it's like, the love that you have for others, the love that you give, the love and care that you give to others. If you think about it, if you just switch it around, right? Trust that the people who love you and care for you, they want the best for you too. And sometimes we
Yeah.
forget that, right? Sometimes we just
Mm-hmm.
keep thinking about, oh, I just need to give. But then
Mm-hmm.
if you put it on the other side, you flip sit on the other side of the table, the people who love us and care for us, they want to be there for us too. And
Mm.
it's important to give them that opportunity by expressing our needs. And then first of all, we need to know what our needs and wants, right? So you kind of need to be with yourself and see what you want. And so that you know what is it to ask, and be specific and ask the people who can give it to you, right? Don't ask someone, like for example, don't borrow money from someone who has no money. So it's like that I think it's really important for us to ask and to receive. To normalize this, I think, yeah, this is something that's not very common in
Mm.
Asian culture. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the idea, like really trusting them and really telling them that, no, really almost like telling yourself that they want to help me. They actually want to be there for me. They actually want to support me. And so, can I let my guard down to trust them? Like to really believe that they want to be there for me, let my guard down and let them be there for me. And I think like that's also a mantra that I also had to really believe, that I also really had to ingrain into myself as well, because
Mhm.
in my own life it was so hard for me to ask for help, so that I really had to shift the idea of what you just mentioned to really believe that actually they want to help me, they want to support me. Like they
Mm.
want me to ask them so that I feel safer to open up to them and I feel safer to ask them um, to help me more because I know that
Mm.
they want to do that. So I think it's like, yeah, it's important to create that safety within yourself and decide to trust them first.
Yeah, so true. And one thing that I also another thought that came to my mind, like we talk about self-care, but self-care is not really just the responsibility of one person. I know the word self seems like, oh, you are in charge of everything, right? But it's important to acknowledge that we live in a community, right? And we need support system. It's not like, oh, self-care, I'm just gonna drop everything and then yeah. Like for example, like those, especially those like parents, right? Their moms and all. So it's very important to seek that support from others. Yeah. So that you can set up a structure that is sustainable and to engage in all these like self-care habits or self-care practices, right? Yeah. And it goes back to the thing that, yeah, trusting people, give them an opportunity to help you, to support you, and that's how we all become stronger, right? And that actually strengthen the relationship because it's like this give and take. It's like a full cycle, right? It's like how I see it, it's like breathing in and out. So you breathe in. No, what happened is like we give so much, so it's always exhale, right? Exhaling. And then you also want to breathe in as well. It's an inhale, exhale, like a give and take cycle. So when you ask for something and you're specific and you ask for support, you actually give the other party the opportunity to give you. And we all know like giving is such a happy, a joyful thing to do, right? Yeah. So you want to offer that opportunity to others as well. So yeah, that's really something that we need to kind of mindfully practice. Yeah, because it doesn't come naturally, at least for me. Yeah. So
Yeah, they want to be there for you. They want to give to you.
mm,
I think those are like amazing thoughts, like for us to practice, so that it will feel easier for us to open up to them.
mm,
And as just as while you were talking, I was also thinking about this idea of like a lot of us, I think, especially for high achieving women, it's like we want a lot, and we're like, and this is where we can feel a little bit hyper independent in a way where we're like, okay, I'm going to do it all, and because I want to have it all, and I want to offer that, yes, you can have it all, right? Like have your family and your work and your side hustle, like have all of it and have your health, have all of it,
mm,
but you don't have to do it all. Like let yourself. If you look at a lot of the most amazing women out there who are super super successful in their own rights and in their life, right? When they have it all, those people they don't do it all. They have so many they have teams, they have like
yeah,
a nanny, they have
mm,
family members there to help them. Like they don't do it all, and you don't have to. I don't understand why. Okay, I can't understand like the societal expectations and all that, but like we should not think of ourselves as needing and wanting and to do it all because and seeing ourselves doing it all as a badge of honor because it is not.
mm,
It is not. It's like we're all connected with other relationships and other people. We can have it all. We can have a lot in our life. And in order to better support our life and our amazing, multi-passionate life where we have it all, is let ourselves have the structures, the people, the team, the resources,
mm.
everything, everywhere, all around us in a very abundant way, right? All of these people, things, resources, all there supporting us and letting
Mm,
ourselves be supported.
yeah, yeah, totally. And one hypothesis that I have for like high achieving women, or maybe it's just generally like apply to all women, is like sometimes we have that mindset that asking for help is a sign of weakness. That's why don't ask, right? Because like we want to be strong, we want to look like we have it all figured out. And I think, yeah, it's also societal kind of conditioning that, yeah, especially women, yeah, you not only take care of the family, you go out and work, career, and you're supposed to, yeah, look good every time, you know what I mean? Have everything figured out. But then like sometimes it's like really recognizing that you need support is actually a way, like reaching out to others is actually a way to go further, because we know that it's not sustainable to do everything by ourselves. Yeah, let's be realistic. So when we reach out to others, I think it really strengthens the relationship to let other people know that, you know, it's like bringing that the humanness, that part of us that, hey, yeah, I do have like vulnerable moments as well. And I, just like any human, sometimes like we are in different seasons of life. So sometimes we really need that support from others. I think it brings up so much of like the care, and it really brings the community closer as well. Like by us just showing our vulnerability. Yeah, I think it's a strength actually to be able to reach out to others. Hey, I need help. Yeah. And you know, this is how you can help me. It's because like we recognize that we actually want to move forward. We want to have a longer distance, right? Travel a longer distance. So it's really important to develop the skill. I see everything as skill because I think having the growth mindset is everything can be developed. So that's how we slowly increase the capacity to get what we want, and also at the same time support others to achieve whatever goals that we want to achieve in life.
Mm, yeah. Yes. And then really seeing yourself as like valuable and that you deserve to ask for help. And like something that I love to think about is that actually I'm just like on this quest to ask for help as much as possible all the time, just let everyone around me help me all the time. Because that's how important and that's how valuable my life is, right? And that's like how much I value myself. And so yeah, like I need as much support as people on board, as many help I can get. And it's almost like really rewiring how you think from this place of like asking for help is weak to actually, because I have a strong mission, I have a life that is very important, I have amazing people in my life that I need to take care of, and so I need all of the help I can get, right, to really help me support that. The other thing, kind of the other topic that we can also really talk about and dive into is this idea of, especially a lot of the times in entrepreneurship, when we are in business, especially on social media, there's this idea of like we need to put ourselves out there and just let ourselves, whether it is in our marketing, let ourselves see us. And we were talking about this, Cindy, where we were saying how visibility is so hard. Why is putting ourselves out there online or putting ourselves out there in front of people, marketing ourselves, why is that so hard, especially for Asian women? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think, first of all, it has a lot to do with safety, because like the Asian culture, like we have this concept of like being modest, like humility. So like you don't want to be too loud, because like you don't want to be seen as like arrogant, you don't want to celebrate your wins. Like, who do you think you are? I feel like that's the kind of like culture. So putting ourselves out there feels unsafe because of that fear of being judged, the fear of like, well, what would other people think of me, right? What if I cannot make it? The fear of failure as well. Like, yeah, it will bring disgrace to the family. Okay, I'm just making that up. But yeah, we all know that it's true to a certain extent, right? So that's why it seems like our nervous system wants to protect us. There's this part of us that wants to keep us safe. And then sometimes when we put ourselves out there, there's also the fear of rejection. Because like, what if like people don't respond to me? What if it's just me out there, saying things that I want to say? Yeah. So I think that's the biggest reason for when it comes to visibility, that it's like you have a big dream, a goal that you want to achieve. So you want to put yourself out there. Like you want to tell more people, but the body, the nervous system doesn't feel safe. Again, it's that gap, right, that we try to close, because like, yeah, when there's this gap, like our body would naturally try to avoid fear instead of trying to pursue the dream that we want to achieve. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I definitely feel it in my body, in my bones. A lot of this, a lot of this pattern of like whenever I, I s- I struggled with this, and to an extent, honestly, I feel like I still go through this on a regular basis nowadays. Of like whenever I want to put myself out there, my nervous system just kind of contracts. It's like, no, 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 like you've learned in your DNA, like it's ingrained in you. You're supposed to look down, like keep your head down, make sure that you're in line, you're not too loud, you're not too out there, you're not too different, you're not too unique, you're not different from other people. Because if you stand out and show yourself in a very powerful or big way, you're gonna get into trouble. And if you grew up in like this kind of environment or you feel like that's what you learned growing up, it's like don't cause drama, don't
Mm,
cause trouble in public. Because if you do that, like the police is gonna come out to get you. Like something bad is gonna happen.
mm,
Like the government's going to find out. I don't know, like just some weird stuff. I think this comes up especially a little bit for like immigrants of like you have to be careful, like stay safe or you're gonna get deported, right? Or something bad's gonna happen and you might have to be thrown out the country. And so therefore follow the rules, keep your head down, do what you're told, don't be too loud, don't be too out
mm,
there, like don't cause any scenes for yourself. And I feel like just at least for me personally, that's a lot of that habitual, pattern and beliefs that I feel in the beginning, especially like when I first wanted to put myself out there, it's like all those things come out. It's like don't get into
mm,
trouble. Like you're gonna get into trouble when you put yourself out there too much. And yeah, and that which is so different from the online world and from when you have your own business is that you do everything you can to let everyone know about who you are and what you do and constantly in your marketing, like sell your stuff, like look at me, look at me, look
mm,
at me, right?
mm,
And yeah,
mm.
and it's that really, really and like they tell you to be specialized, to be unique, make sure that you stand out from the competition in the market, right? So that's that big difference that I think, especially for people and the Asian women, if you have these experiences coming from this kind of background, that we might have to deal with. And I think it's very important to bring those things up, to really look at them, because to really see that, oh, it's not because there's something wrong with you. That's why you are so shy, and that's why you do not want to put yourself out there. It's like literally a learned behavior. And a lot of this, it really comes from um, your immigrant experiences, or it comes from the culture and how you were brought up. And it's just like it's so ingrained in you.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I think it's like, yeah, I think Asians, like based on my own experience, we tend to be a bit more reserved. We are not as outspoken. And then so sometimes like especially like you mentioned like online world is like, hey, look at me, right? So then sometimes like I know that in my journey in the beginning, or even if now, there's this thought of tendency to compare myself to others, right? And then you're like, wow, that person is loud, that person is confident. And then it's like when I compare that person, like outer world, with my own inner world, because we all know our inner world have all this stuff, inner critic, there's a lot of fear happening, right? So then there's a tendency to like, I might as well just hide and or just run away because it doesn't feel safe. And then sometimes I feel like there's also the tendency like superior inferior, like when I see other people like, oh wow, yeah, they seem to have it all figured out. And then when we compare to myself, like, wow, I actually haven't figured out. Yeah, not at all. So then it's like, okay, if that's the case, I might as well don't put myself out there. Yeah. So it's like, I think of it is like a protective mechanism as well. Because all these things, even though yes, it is keeping us small, it has its own positive intention to really keep us safe so that we don't get hurt and all. And yeah, and I like what you say, like learn behavior, like all these cultural, like all these shaping influences that tell us that it's not safe to be out there and loud. So then there's a tendency to kind of like just shrink and run. But we also know that keeping us safe, back to the comfort zone. But what we want to achieve, the goals and aspiration that we want, is actually outside of our comfort zone. Yeah. So you see that there's this dynamic, there's this inner conflict. Like part of us want to keep us safe, and then part of us actually want to go out there. So it's again back to the point of like taking baby step to put. You don't have to put yourself out there like go live, like like straight away, and then yeah. But it's like maybe it's a small step, like let's post, let's do, let's make one post and talk about my offer, what I have. Yeah, like energetically, how I like to think of it is like when you have a business, you want to hang the open for business sign. So sometimes we forget that, right? So even if you don't have a physical shop, you want to imagine that, okay, this is a space that I have, and I'm gonna hang that open for business sign because I need to let other people know that there's this shop here, there's an existence of this shop here, and you need to make sure the sign is open, not closed, right? Yeah. So I think that thought, that visualization actually helped me a lot, so that it kind of let my body know that, hey, my shop is just like every other shop, that I'm here, I have something to offer, but I need to let people know. So then I can invite people to come in and they can choose, right? They can choose whether, yeah, they can browse and see what they want. I can have a chat. It just helped to calm my nervous system a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. It's visually just thinking about the open for business sign and just hanging that, changing that sign and letting people
Mm,
know that, hey, I'm open for business, right? And if you
mm,
want, you can come in and shop around and I'll
yeah.
show you what I have to
Mm.
offer.
Correct. Yeah, it seems a little bit more manageable for my nervous system. Yeah, so that I don't
Mm,
have to. And I think one thing is also important to know is like no one is really the same. So the tendency to compare ourselves to others, I think it's trying to tell us something. So when I catch myself comparing to others, like the the mindset shift that I try to apply is like, wow, I'm actually inspired, right? They are showing me the possibilities. Like this person is like, wow, crushing it. So like I'm just curious like what they're doing. Like something within me recognize there's something good in them. And I have heard like people telling me like you saying like if you can recognize, it's like when you envy someone, it means that you recognize something in them, which means you actually have the seed within you as well. Maybe it's not nurtured yet, so like you feel like, oh, the skills is different, but the fact that you can recognize something good in other people, it's also a reflection. It's like a mirror of your own internal world. So there's something within you, so you can again ask for help. You can reach out to that person. Hey, how do you do that? Can I learn from
mm,
you? You can be rejoiced in what they have to share because you know that they are doing great work, and let that be an inspiration of like showing you what is possible, because if they can do it, you can do it too. It's just a matter of time and like putting effort. Yeah.
there's a reason why you are comparing with them. There's something about them. It's like what Cindy said. There's something about them that makes you feel drawn towards them. It could be like if it shows up as jealousy, it's still something, right? Even if
Mm,
it's like you feel jealous or you get triggered by them, it's still something. Because here's the thing, if there's really nothing there, if you really don't care about them, you wouldn't have this emotional reaction towards it.
mm,
You wouldn't
mm.
find yourself comparing with them this way. You would just be like, okay, scroll past their content, like, okay, cool, moving on,
Yeah.
right? But
Mm,
why is it that you see them? There's
mm,
something about their energy, something about them that you also feel called towards, you also feel connected with. And so even if you feel like you are being triggered by them, or if it's slightly towards a negative way, there's
mm,
still something there that we can all really learn from. Because Otherwise, you would just be indifferent
Mm,
about them.
yeah. Wow, I think that distinction there is so true. Yeah, like be curious, right? It's like breadcrumb. Like you're like, oh wow, like what is it like magnetic, right? What makes me drawn towards them? There must be something. Yeah, and it's very different. Like you really change the whole energy when you lead with like curiosity and wonder,
Mm-hmm.
like or inspiration, right? Inspire, being inspired. Yeah, and then you get to learn like, oh, what's there. Yeah, or sometimes it's also like people are taking the action. It's your own internal system, like your psyche telling you, hey, I think that you have not taken action. That's why when you compare
Mm-hmm.
yourself when you see others doing great, it's also that reaction that comes out. Maybe you have not taken the steps, right? Maybe you've been hiding. So when you see others,
Mm-hmm.
it's very interesting how our body actually speaks to us, like through this emotion and sensation. So when you're curious about it, you can really be honest and ask yourself those questions and with kindness and compassion. So it doesn't become like a judgment, but rather like, yeah, I'm just really curious, like what's going on? What are you trying to tell me? Or like what is the next smallest step that I can take? Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and the other thing about really putting yourself out there when it comes to visibility is that like we all have our own capacity, right? Some people like what we mentioned earlier, some people can do live and some people might not be able to do that. And so you want to slowly kind of like how you want to go approach about this is take steps in a way where it feels like a stretch, but it's not too out there where you immediately freeze back because it's too much for you. And so maybe if you've never ever been on Instagram before at all, maybe you don't want to go on and jump on the live, right? Maybe that's too much for your nervous system. And so
Mm.
maybe you can start off with writing a post, and then maybe you start off with a recorded video, and then maybe you start off with a reel, right? Like you start off slowly and slowly build up that mus those muscles, those visibility muscles
Mhm.
and habits, and then slowly increase your capacity over time. Maybe in the beginning, it is not putting yourself like sharing yourself to a group of 1,000 people, right? Maybe it's just one-on-one in a DM. And then maybe afterwards it is only with your people on Instagram. And maybe afterwards you want to try email. You slowly increase that capacity over time, right? From writing to a picture of you to a video and then to live. You slowly build up that capacity over time in a way where it's like always just a little bit of a stretch, but not too much,
Mhm.
where you go into like freeze and like freeze mode where it causes too much of that exposure to you because that's just not healthy and a sustainable way to do it. And I actually see it a lot. Like people go like try like okay 30-day exposure challenge and they put themselves out there for 30 days when their nervous system is not there yet.
Mm.
And they like put themselves out there for 30 days and then afterwards they need another month to recover. Like that's not what
Oh yeah.
we're talking
Mm.
about. And so many people do that. And I think a lot of marketing coaches, a lot of people online teach you this. Like, okay, whatever challenge, you just putting yourself out there all the time. And I want to offer to meet yourself where you are at. And everyone's experience is different. Everyone's capacity to put ourselves out
Mm.
there is different. And so
Mm.
start where you are, right? If make it feel like a little bit of exciting stretch, but then you don't want to break that stretch, right? That's what we're doing in a way where it feels like you're stretching yourself a little bit, but you don't want to break it and re like retract and go down and like crawl into your bed and just like crawl into a hole after you make that post. That's not what we want you to do.
I mean that's such a great reminder. And when you're sharing that, the image that came to my mind is like, you know, the rubber band, you want to stretch it, but not too much, okay?
Yeah.
You want to slowly, like, if you have a really tight one, like, I just use it like, imagine your nervous system, because it's something new, right? It's very uncomfortable, but you want to just slowly stretch it a little bit, a little bit. You don't want to pull it like way too much, and then you lead to burnout. Yeah, I've seen like a lot people who's like fatigue, right? You see them like posting every day on social media, for example, and then
Hmm.
suddenly they are
Yeah,
gone for like,
just silent
yeah,
stop.
right. And
Yeah.
then we are not saying that don't, sometimes, trust your own instinct and practice discernment. If you need to take a break off, it's all fine. But you want to do it like what Shirley said, honor your own capacity and your boundary, and know that you can show up on your own terms. And you can try different things sometimes, right? Because like if you are new here, you have not tried anything at all. So everything seems scary. So you get to give yourself opportunity to try different things and see which one, works better for you, what feels right for you. And then slowly you can build that capacity. Yeah, that is so true. And one thing that I find that's really helpful, again, is community. You want to find a tribe of people to kind of support each other. I think that's really important because I hope we have nailed that message that, sometimes doing things alone is hard because when you're by yourself, there's a lot. You're dealing with your own thing, your inner world. Sometimes they can be not that friendly, not that helpful. So sometimes you actually want to get support from other people to tell them, hey, this is what I need. Or maybe it's an accountability partner, or people, or maybe sometimes it's just mentor, get a coach, people who can help you, support you. And while you're trying to, gently stretch your nervous system, it really gives you that good foundation. Yeah. Having that right structure in place.
Mm, yes. This is so good. I feel like we can talk about this forever, like for a very long time, never stop.
I'm not keeping track of time. I trust that you're doing it, so I have no idea how long we have talked.
Yeah. Yes, so we are at a little bit over the 1 hour mark. Is there anything else that you want to share? Any last last thoughts that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, if I'm gonna wrap this thing like from my side, I would say that I truly believe that to create any kind of change that we want is really awareness. So awareness is the first step because like you can't examine something that you have not explored. And so cultivate that awareness, like think about identify your needs, your desires, like what exactly that you want. And then the second step is action, taking action, because having the awareness is half the battle, but really taking action is the one that help you to move forward. And taking action means taking small baby steps, because at the end of the day, you want to make the whole process fun, simple, and sustainable, because those are the things that will keep you, create lasting change. I think that's all I have from my side.
No, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. I guess for me, maybe it would be like I feel like sometimes we tend to make things all about us, right? Like it's because the reason why I don't have this result, I'm not where I'm at yet in my career, in my business, is because there's something wrong with me. I'm the problem. I'm not good enough. I'm not capable. And I think what we can really, really start doing is to really turn that around from our like really looking at what is wrong with us to really seeing looking at things from a bigger picture just in our life, like looking at our experiences, how we were brought up growing up. That's very
Mm,
important. A lot of our experiences is different from a lot of the people around us, and from a lot of the examples that we see online, right? There might be people who have different experiences, different backgrounds, and so it makes sense why sometimes it feels like there's something wrong with you that you're not doing it. But always go back to how you were raised growing up, the beliefs that you had, what you've learned from adults around you growing up, and just the culture around you, and what kind of personality that you have personally. I think those are all very, very important. And then when you just look at all of it as a whole, right? Look at the society, look at how the your government is run. Like look at how everything is actually happening from like a way, way bigger perspective, instead of just
mm,
looking at there's something wrong with me. And then once you have a much bigger picture, then you can start to create more I guess, more of a observant perspective and be less judgmental and less hard on yourself. And then only when you let go of the shame, the guilt, the feeling of not good enoughness, like not enoughness, then we can actually move forward because we feel more open now, right?
Mm.
Because then we feel like actually there are a lot of obstacles and it's not because there's something wrong with me. Then you can actually take more actions in a way that feels like with more perspective, right? And
Mm.
then you can take more actions, understanding that is not just because of you.
So true. Unshaming. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, so true. I like that.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for having this. We could totally have a part two if you want.
I remember like there's a session note that when she messaged me, let's keep it to an hour. I'm like, okay. And I just smile like
Yeah.
yeah, so good. Thank you so much for the conversation. Yeah. And thank you so
Yes.
much for everyone who joined us today. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to message us individually, message Cindy or I, or just leave a comment and let us know what you think and if you can relate to any of the struggles and the stories that we shared
Yeah.
on this live.
Yeah, you're not alone. We are all in this together. Yeah.
Yes. All right, and I will talk to you later.
Bye.